So earlier in the week, we talked about, or I talked about actually, a post I called The Excuse, which was about basically not being into someone, but claiming that you're into them for whatever reason. I still really haven't figured that one out, just maybe for the sake of being nice. And then they pick up on this because people aren't stupid. They're going to notice when you're not into them, and then they start to get insecure, like, oh, you don't like me, but you maintain this excuse. You
keep it going.
You maintain
for no apparent reason.
Right, you maintain it. No, you really like them, and you actually convince yourself that if only they weren't so insecure,
right.
then everything would be great. But it's just total bullshit. It's just what's in the forefront of your mind now. But really, what it gives you is a legitimate excuse to break up with a person later.
To get out as soon as you possibly can.
Because they're acting so crazy that they...
It's almost like you set yourself up for that to happen because you know that they're about to start acting so crazy that
right.
there's no way that person could go, oh my God, why would you possibly be breaking up with me? They just stop, take a step back and go, oh, I was being a complete psycho, so it makes perfect sense why this person's breaking up.
And no one wants to be the bad guy or girl.
Exactly.
No one wants to be the one to break up with the other one. You know, the best thing is always if it's mutual, but how often does that fucking happen? That's like
everyone always says it's a mutual breakup, but someone's always getting hurt.
Right,
Someone's running away and dancing in Vegas.
Right, so you want it to be kind of like they've given you this legitimate reason, so you're no longer the bad guy, and then it's kind of like a defense mechanism, like they can then blame themselves for what happened, and you can blame them too, and it's kind of like you actually do agree, because it is like a mutual breakup, although you never really should have been together in the first place.
Right.
But this kind of ties in with the story about Karina, because it was like, what do you do after you realize that you have no chemistry with someone? I mean, most of the time it's not quite as blatant as they give me the worst head of all time.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is, a lot of times it happens in situations where you can't actually get out of it. You can't just walk away. I mean, you can't walk away from your own apartment at 4 in the morning. You can walk away from a bar, but how are you ever going to know that unless they're giving you horrible BJ?
And how often does that happen?
And how often does that
Maybe just randomly in New York in a bathroom with some older woman, you get a hand job.
Which only barely happened to me. But
right, I mean, and then you could determine these things at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not going to work in the most cases.
But I mean, that's only if you spend a half an hour telling them that you think they're really good looking, and if you're really into this, then you'll follow me into the bathroom.
You seem to have experience with this.
Yeah, no, not really, but sometimes.
So what is your opinion? What do you do in these situations? Because if you go with this thing where you continue and you're just not that into them and they pick up with it, well, you actually have a legitimate excuse, but that's not really fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, you become the good guy or the good girl if it's a girl doing it, if you just are honest with them about, the fact that you're just not actually interested.
Well, see, I think there's kind of a contract that you come up with. It's kind of a social contract that's not obvious. There's no dotted line or whatever, no place to sign. But it's like when you meet someone, you say you're going to go home with them. I mean, we've written about this also, about how it's like, why does the girl go home if she's A, not going to sleep with them, or B, just going to get themselves out of the situation instantly, which is exactly what she did with you. But if there's no like, oh, okay, I'm kind of into this situation where you go home with them, and it's like, oh, you actually went on a date, you did it properly, you've hung out with them soberly, you're doing other things, and then you realize it, it's actually not nearly as awkward to just be like, look, this isn't actually working out for me, and I'm really sorry, and I mean, you say the bullshit things like, oh, maybe we're going to hang out, we're going to continue hanging out.
Right, but that's not to say that there's no merit or nothing to be said for going home the first night you meet someone to hang out.
Right.
Maybe have a drink or whatever. Just get to know them in a place where it's not like blaring music at 3 in the morning.
But you also have to admit that rarely happens.
Oh, it absolutely rarely happens.
And also, I mean, it rarely happens that both people think in their head, oh, we're just going to go home and talk to each other.
No, but I'm just saying there is an exception.
No, there definitely is.
And we're not saying if you go home with someone you have to fuck them, because I definitely don't think that.
No. There's absolutely no, like, like social thing that says you have to do that, but a lot of people just assume that it's that way. And I think girls actually like protect themselves when they're in bars, when they're out, and they specifically don't go home because they think of that. And unless they hear the guy say, "Look, no, I'm the nice guy, I'm not going to do it," then they're not going to go home with it.
Right, but now that brings up a really common misconception, which is that girls think, for some reason, I think they've been trained, and guys could just say this constantly. There's got to be a camp. Yeah, okay. But, you know, they constantly say, well, there's no guy's going to date me if I fuck on the first night.
Right.
And I don't, like, I can't speak for 100% of the male population, and I am positive that there are guys that actually think that. Yeah. But then again, those guys probably won't sleep with you the first night, right?
Very true.
I mean, this is total bullshit. I can't believe that this has been perpetuated for so long.
And it has been too. It's really ingrained.
And I've got something to say right here, once and for all. If a guy sleeps with you the first night and then he doesn't want to date you, it's not because you slept with him the first night. It's because he doesn't like you.
It has nothing at all to do with that. In fact, it's almost sexier to the guy. It's almost better for the guy if the girl's like willing to sleep with you and you like them. That really
right. Well, it depends on the guy, but you know. Obviously, there's a line. Like, if you're shit-faced to the point where you can't even speak, then probably they're not making any sort of distinction about whether or not they like you.
Also,
anyway.
I mean, the one thing about that situation, actually situations in bars with drinking especially involved, is that even if you did spend some time getting to know them, and let's say the guy is a little more drunk than the girl is, because that happens to be the situation most of the time,
right?
And the girl is like just being protective, which it actually makes plenty of sense. Then the guy is. Even if he did actually make an effort to get to know the girl, he's not going to remember it. And if he doesn't remember, he's going to wake up in the morning and the only thing he's going to know is that he had sex with this girl. And the only thing also he's going to know is, am I supposed to continue and try to get to know this girl? It's the exact, his thought in his mind is the exact same as you look over and you go, oh, that girl's attractive. That's the first thing you do at a bar, right? You see the girl's attractive, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, that girl's attractive, but somehow I slept with her? So then it's the exact same thing. So what do you do next? Well, at this point, you're actually sober. So that's the point.
So then you get to know them.
Where you get to know them.
But the thing is, like, if you're at a bar and you are attracted to someone, the dividing line is not going to be did you sleep with them or did you not sleep with them.
Never.
If you think that way, don't go home with them. Just give them your number and hope that they call you. You know, I mean, make a good enough emotional impression such that happens. Because going home and giving someone a hand job is just not going to fucking work.
It is also
that's how you secure no callback.
Well, it's also confusing beyond belief. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You just think, what is this person thinking? Why did they go home with me just to sleep with me?
And you might want to ID them too, because why did they give you a hand job? What, are you fucking 14 years old?